2022 has witnessed immense climate impact around the world, from floods that put 1/3 of Pakistan under water to Europe's hottest summer in 500 years, to hurricanes and typhoons that have hammered the Philippines, Cuba and the US state of Florida. Our next report looks at COP27, where next month world leaders will be gathering in Egypt for the United Nations Climate Summit, with climate finance expected to be high on the agenda. Take a look.
After a year of climate catastrophes impacting communities from Florida to Pakistan and Puerto Rico, the pressure is mounting to reduce carbon emissions. For the United Nations' new climate chief, Simon Steele, the fight is personal. His previous role was as the Environment and Climate Resilience Minister on the small island nation of Grenada. He started his job as the Executive Secretary of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change just weeks ago. The next UN COP meeting on climate change takes place from 6th to 18th of November 2022 in Egypt. Steele is clear about the challenges that lie ahead.
Every COP is a make or break COP. Every COP counts, and every COP should move us one step closer or multiple steps closer to that target of halving emissions by 2030.
It's now his job to make sure the world cuts emissions of heat-trapping gases by about half. It's these gases which are fueling the increasingly frequent weather disasters. Dr. Tara Shine is the CEO of Change by Degrees, a climate consultancy. She is a former member of the UN climate team. She says that there is a sense of urgency to make progress at the upcoming COP in Egypt.
I've been going to COP since 2003, and I always have high expectations of them, even though I know that they are difficult places to get business done, as we are trying to agree by consensus amongst 190 countries. But I think this year, given the impacts of climate change that are being experienced around the world, it's also an African COP. We see the impacts of climate change on the Horn of Africa and the famine there. I think there's going to be a real urgency at this COP, and that's what I expect our leaders to bring to the table.
East Africa is the world's hardest hit drought region, according to the UN's desertification agency. September saw Somalia being ravaged by its most alarming drought in more than half a century, as both people and animals were being stripped from their homes. Thousands of people have died, including nearly 900 children under 5 being treated for malnutrition, according to the United Nations data. The UN says 500,000 such children are at risk of death. Rich countries, especially the United States, have emitted far more than their share of heat-trapping carbon dioxide from the burning of coal, oil and natural gas. Poor nations like Pakistan and Puerto Rico have been hurt far more than their share of global carbon emissions. Loss and damage has been talked about for years. But richer nations have often balked at the negotiating details on paying for past climate disasters like Pakistan's flooding this summer. Rich nations previously pledged to spend $100 billion a year on aid to poor nations to help them adapt to climate change and develop cleaner energy systems. The deal was not billed as compensation for damage caused, though. Even those pledges, however, especially from the United States, have not been fulfilled. It's clear that the effects of climate change are already being felt around the world. And with COP27 on the horizon, the question remains, will the meeting spur world leaders into action? Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
WION now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.